Ahoy! It's your boy! And today is Sunday, December 3rd. And normally that would mean that your boy has to go to bed early and get a good night's sleep because they got a long week of school starting up tomorrow. But lo and behold, we are on the cusp of Dead Week. I have my last day of formal classes on Friday. And really, I guess who knows? I may be going to graduate school soon here, but for the foreseeable future, that's the end of formal classes that I'll have, at least of my undergraduate college career. And it felt kind of weird because I didn't even really think about it, excuse me, until it had crossed my mind. I knew that was happening, but on Friday, I just had one class, and then I met up with some language partners, and we were just kind of shooting the shit for a little bit. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized, oh man, I should have kind of had a moment, where I was leaving campus and kind of looking back at the Campanile or at Sather Gate or whatever, and been like, well, actually, as I'm saying this, I realize, fuck, I'll be there in like a week for my final. So I'll just I guess I will have an opportunity to do that type of stuff. But, it was just weird that here I've literally kind of, I don't know, walked away from classes for, the last 2.5 years, but hadn't really hit me that it was the last kind of day of formal classes until I got home. So, but yeah, man, it's weird to think that, wow, really the end is nigh for this, journey that I've been on for the last 4.5 years, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, so we're entering what's called Dead Week, which is there is no classes being held. We're supposed to be using this time to prepare for finals, and I have 3 finals that I have to sit for. Of my 4 classes, only one of them, the final is just an essay that I have to turn in a week from Wednesday. Shouldn't be too difficult. The other 3 classes, excuse me, sorry. It's just going to be one of those days, but the other 3 classes I do have finals I have to sit for. 2 of them are on Wednesday. The paper that I have to write happens to be due that evening as well. And then my last final is the very last available final slot on Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. And that's pretty brutal. But hey, that's the way the cracker crumbles, people. And so, what are you going to do? And I guess considering that I never have to go back to school, it's kind of hard to complain. So, and yeah, I guess how are we going to be finishing up here? Pretty good, I suppose. I'm only taking 2 classes for a grade. I have good grades in those classes, so I'd have to work pretty hard, to not keep that A, I think. And so that's a good thing. And the 2 classes that I'm taking pass, no pass, I should prepare. I don't necessarily need to crucify myself getting ready for the final because I think I have a high B in both of those classes, which is actually kind of strange because I've sort of talked about how, what I should be doing is kind of throttling my efforts and try not to be too hard on myself since I don't need to get an A in these classes. But I have to be honest, when it comes to most of the assignments, I've still kind of given my best effort. And even then, I was like, of the elective classes that I had to pick, these in some ways are kind of proven, thankfully I'm taking them pass, no pass, but there's a way in which these 2 classes have kind of proven to be the most difficult classes that I've taken so far. And so yeah, it's just kind of weird how that works out. But yeah, I should be pretty well situated to definitely pass those classes, so that's good. And then really kind of the capstone of all this is the thesis that I've sort of talked about, which I admit I've kind of been kind of monomaniacally. I'm not really sure how to word it, but it's really been the sole thing I focused on kind of for the last week and a half, just knowing that, of all the things I'm doing, that has the most work that has to get involved. And so it's nice to be looking up at least today and realizing I'm just about at the end of the second major section of it. And I said it was a minimum 40 pages. Right now, I think I'm at like 58 or something like that. I have maybe 5 or 6 more pages of the main section, and then I still have to write an introduction and a conclusion. So yeah, it'll be, maybe high 60s, deep in the 60s, maybe knocking on the door of 70 pages by the time it's done, which, is a little fluffy. I'll put it that way at this point. There's a lot of fluff. And so maybe with a final pass, I'll get it down somewhere. It's not going to be anywhere close to 40, but It's actually wild too, because I think, up until the beginning of the semester, what the project that I had originally set out for myself was actually was going to be twice as long. If it, well, I didn't realize this at the time, but seeing as things are panning out, I realized if I hadn't cut back significantly, the thing would have been about twice as long. I've talked about how the premise of the thesis is basically I have a teacher who, he has this idea that all accounts of creation, we would really call it like scientific accounts of creation, not really science as you think about it, but science as kind of the original definition of science, which is like what we know in terms of empirical observation. And the idea is that all accounts of creation kind of accomplish the same things. They do it through different forms of allegory, but if you sort of scrutinize them long enough or unpack the kind of allegorical tropes that they're using, they're kind of talking about the same things. And we don't need to go into all that malarkey right now. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, the idea of the hero's journey that if you look at all these different epics or stories from various cultures, they all have these same features to them. His theory is more like, although these stories look very, very different, they're actually accomplishing the same thing. So I think partly predicated on the fact that I'm a comparative literature major, or was one of my majors was comparative literature, that I was going to compare and contrast two different types of creations or cosmogonies and see how closely or not they conform to this theory. And originally it was this sort of canonical text that's included with I Ching or the Book of Changes, this classic ancient book, Chinese book of divination and philosophy. It has a commentary called Shi Zhuan, or the Great Commentary is what it's also called. And the other text that I was going to look at was Plato's Timaeus, which is a dialogue that I don't think most people know. I didn't know it before I was assigned it in class. And, had I done both of those, this thing would have been twice as long. So thankfully, I just sort of cut it back to really the one text that I was interested in, which was the commentary from I Ching. And yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a long process, and it's kind of funny. I was actually thinking about this. Like, I think the longest paper I've written before this was like 28 pages, and that was for last semester. It was this sort of senior seminar class from a comparative literature class, which really was a class just about like Native American literature and drama. Like, we actually read a couple plays and read a novel called Fool's Crow, which I recommend. It's very, very good. And I wrote this very long paper that was kind of like a capstone for that class. And, it was just, I don't know. It's like a lot of things in life, which is when you're only getting, whether it's high school or whatever, you're getting assignments of like 5, 6, 7 pages, that feels like a stretch. But once the assignment is just bigger, you think, oh man, how am I going to stretch something out that long? It just kind of takes care of itself. And I'm sort of finding that with this paper also, which is, this is the longest thing I've ever written. And at first I was like, man, how am I ever going to write anything that long? And lo and behold, as long as the subject or the thing you're tasking yourself with is big enough or sufficient enough, it just is going to take you that far. And it's also one of these weird things too, where it's like, if you give me 2 weeks to write a paper and it has to be 5 pages, I'm going to use all 2 weeks to write 5 pages. But if you give me the same amount of time to write a 10-page paper, it's going to take the same amount of time. It's almost like our brain somehow just sort of, I don't know, for some reason I'm thinking about like a fish that kind of grows to the size of its bowl. But there's like that phenomenon that you observe sometime, which is like, I saw a video recently on like one of the, on the internet somewhere. I don't know what I don't know what exponent of the 1080 it was, but I remember when I was a kid, Tony Hawk doing actually it was the 900, right? Tony Hawk doing the 900 was like an event for the X Games. Now I think people have like doubled that, and then I guess, I don't know what it is now, but I saw somebody do some insane amount of turns in the air. And it's just this weird thing where like as soon as a gold medalist or some Olympian like breaks a record, everybody breaks the record. It's like before somebody does it, there's like a psychological block collectively in the collective like brain culture, which is like, oh, it just can't be done. But once somebody demonstrates that it's possible, you just have tons of people who just all of a sudden are able to do it. And it's not like there's some like gross genetic mutation that's happening, right? It just sort of indicates that there's a psychological component. And I think that's true with a lot of things, which is like if you've only written 5-page papers, writing a 10-page paper seems crazy. And if you're like me and the longest page you've written, longest paper you've written up until now is like 28 pages, the idea of writing a 40-page paper seems nuts. But lo and behold, you just kind of put your head down and you chip away at it, and you're writing, something very, very long, and you know, I don't know what to say about that. It's just it is what it is. But it's nice to see. I think in some ways it kind of has proven to me that, and I think this is what the whole purpose of doing this was. Sorry, I'm yawning. This is like it's just gonna be one of those things, man. It's Sunday. I'm tired. I've been sitting here for hours and hours and hours, and I'm tired. And we're just gonna get through this thing. And uh, yeah, what was I talking about? I'm talking about getting through my paper. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I think I was gonna say it's demonstrated to me that I can probably function in graduate school, which is really kind of what this whole thing was designed to do. It's an honors thesis. It's not something I'm required to do to graduate necessarily, but because my grades were good enough, it's bizarre that because your grades are good enough, you're given the chance to do more work. It's like my grades should be good enough. Like I actually had this one thing, maybe more than once, but like a teacher will be like, if you're going into the final with X grade, the final is actually optional for you, because at that point the final can only hurt you. But also, if you've been doing well throughout the course, why should there be all of a sudden this sort of cumulative assignment that, I don't know, you just kind of, I don't know, re-demonstrate that you know the material? So I remember actually, maybe it was partly predicated on, was it predicated on COVID? Probably some other disaster that happened in the world that is just that have been so ubiquitous I just can't quite place it. But I do know at the end of one semester recently, there was this email that went out that asked teachers to like be generous with grading, and I just can't remember I just can't remember what it was. Um, but I do remember I was sort of beginning work on this semester sort of final paper, and the teacher sent out an email that just said, "Hey, you know what? I've decided that the final paper is going to be optional. So if you're happy with where your grade is, you don't have to do it. If you'd like a chance to improve your grade, however, you can do the paper, and if you knock it out of the park, it'll help you raise your grade." So I elected not to do it. I think I already had it in the class. So, but I think about that stuff. Maybe as someone who may have a future in teaching in some capacity, I'm not sure what that would look like. But I noticed, especially recently, I've been thinking about how people lead their classes, and just kind of one, by virtue of the fact that I'm an adult and I'm going to school with younger people, I kind of get a sense of where they're at. And I think, like most things in life, I mean, sometimes they seem a little entitled, or they're just, I realize that they're calibrated very differently. Like, I feel like for every paper that we get, and maybe there's some gap that happened with COVID or something like that in terms of the education that people received in high school or something. But I'm surprised that I go to an institution like UC Berkeley, and every time there's a paper assigned, people ask for these like enumerated expectations of like what the paper should entail, how the teacher wants it structured. And for me, it's like, isn't it just an assumption that like at this point you know how to write a paper? I mean, a rubric is one thing, right? I mean, I'm not talking about like the rubric against which the paper you're writing will be graded. People are literally wanting to be told how to write a paper, which seems a little bit strange to me. And I'm not really sure what to say about that, except having a rubric makes sense, right? Because I think especially as a teacher, you're probably likely to get some pushback, even from students who like aren't happy with their grade. It's almost like being a police officer, whereas like as a teacher, you're invested with like a lot of power, and especially in a world where like grades matter and GPA like has a really meaningful impact on people's future. When it comes to grading things, you really need a kind of you need something that you can point to justify the grade that you've given someone. Because if they ever contest it, you know, you just want to make sure that you can, defend your choices. And yeah, that's an important thing to have. But yeah, I do find in some ways, like, I'm surprised at the level of hand holding that a lot of students seem to want. Um, But the other thing too is I guess what I'm saying is I've talked about this in terms of like chemistry teachers that I've had in the past where people talk about how things aren't fair or something. And maybe I've even talked about it in terms of this semester with this political science class. But, yeah, we have these tests or these assignments where the teacher asks these like really in the weeds, really granular questions, which I think are nuts and not how I would run the class. But it's not that, but I hear this response from students where they're like, oh, it's not fair. And I'm like, well, it's not that it's not fair. I mean, the teacher can test on whatever they want. Like, it would be unfair if it wasn't in the reading, but if the teacher can demonstrate, hey, this was a question pulled from this reading or this assignment or this point in the lecture, as long as it's in there, it's not that it's not fair. It may be, again, would it necessarily be the things that I would hope to draw people's attention to or that I would want to make sure that they understood because it seemed the most relevant or important to me in the class? Probably not. But it's not that it's not fair. It just sucks, you know? Um, so yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking about, or at least pretending to think about because I need to talk about stuff. Really, I just feel like my brain is I feel like my brain is soup and you know. So yeah, I feel like the last time I was in this place where I'm sitting in front of a microphone and I don't know what to talk about, I started going off on a tangent about angels in America and being a prophet of God and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not really sure I have anything on the brain that's really up to the same weight or seriousness. But what I do feel is that I don't know what to talk about. So let's think. Actually, the thing that comes to mind is firearms. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of being preemptively, I don't know, insecure about this topic. But I mentioned that as a graduation gift, I bought another firearm. It's a Ruger SR-22, which is like a 22 caliber pistol. And I got it. I picked it up. Thing was great. I went right to the range and I was shooting it and it was awesome. And I'd spent so much time over the last week, like, it's bizarre. This is going to sound nuts for people, but I have literally been playing with it. Now, hear me out. Not just playing with a loaded firearm, but what I mean is, and this is my personal view. I'm sure people would corroborate this, but I think if you're the person who has if you're deterred by firearms or you think that they're gross, this is going to sound macabre or something. But my experience so far as someone who is formerly not a gun owner, does not come from like a firearm culture family or something like that. I think initially it's very easy to be turned off by firearms because you're sort of, convinced by the culture that they're somehow intrinsically dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong, they are weapons and they are dangerous and they are created with the express purpose of like shooting things and people and like ending life, both people and animals and that type of stuff. So that they have to be treated with reverence. But there's also this kind of like incongruent fear that I find, having spent some time with them now, that people think that they're just like going to go off. Like, I mean, barring a sort of major mechanical malfunction, guns are actually pretty safe as long as you exercise caution and really common sense. I mean, you hear these things, especially as you watch like videos on YouTube where people will be adamant that you need to keep all ammunition like outside of the room in which like a firearm is present if you're not shooting. And that's true. But it's not like bullets magically jump into firearms and detonate, or like triggers accidentally pull themselves. Again, there are catastrophic mechanical failures where, maybe something like that happens, but that's pretty few and far between. As long as you exercise some basic common sense, things are fine. So that's just a long preface to say, I think actually, I'll start with this. When I went to pick up my firearm, there's a big run on guns lately. People are thinking the world's going to end. And so when you go to any store that you go to, there could be a lot of people. So I'm kind of queued up and there I see this sort of petite woman, young, actually very attractive, if I'm being honest, but she was buying a firearm and it was clearly her first firearm. And so I'm coming in right as she's kind of checking out. And in a good move, the person who's selling her the firearm kind of goes through this protracted process, making sure that she understands how the thing operates. And it was just very clear the way that she was handling the firearm that she had never really done that before. And it was just sort of something that stuck in my mind because she was buying like this, I don't know what it was, but it was some type of semi-automatic pistol. And you're sort of watching him walk her through the process of like, how do you check to make sure the firearm's unloaded? Even if you remove the magazine, make sure you check the chamber and all that sort of just like basic firearm stuff. But before he let her leave, he both showed her and then had her demonstrate that she understood how to operate the firearm by like loading a fake dummy round into the gun and loading it and unloading it and all that sort of stuff. And the way that she was handling it was very, very clumsy. And it was bizarre to be sitting there and watching someone go home with, a potentially very dangerous item and be like, yeah, what would you prescribe? As I was sort of thinking about it later, I was like, what would you prescribe for this individual so that they got comfortable with it? And I realized, it's exactly the things that I kind of do at home, which is one, obviously you make sure the firearm's unloaded and yeah, you don't want ammunition anywhere nearby and you check it frequently to make sure it's unlocked, but you really have to handle and play with your gun. I feel crazy saying this, but when I write papers or when I do just about anything, I usually have a deck of cards or multiple decks of cards like in my desk or nearby, and I'm just constantly shuffling them. And like for a while there, I had these like, I actually don't know if they're nearby, but I used to have these like fidget objects, and I always got them knowing that this was my tendency but I with the objects that I actually got, I just never used them. But what I always do is shuffle cards. I had a deck of cards in here as I was working with my paper that are just absolutely torn to shreds just because I just have handled them till they're basically in ribbons or whatever. But what has taken the place of that is a firearm, And so, I just sort of drop and reinsert the magazine like 1,000 times. I pull the slide back and release the slide. And I'm basically handling this firearm in the same way that I would handle like a shuffled deck of cards. Does that make sense? And even while I'm like watching TV or something, I'm like practicing a sight picture or, I have some targets on the walls that I like dry fire at. And so within the span of a week, I had put hours and hours and hours of handling into this firearm and became incredibly, incredibly comfortable with it, which was really the whole purpose that I got it. And the reason I got this firearm in particular, even though the guns that I have are 22 long rifle caliber guns. One's a revolver, one's a pistol, semi-automatic pistol. There's a rule that you're not supposed to dry fire them. Just by virtue of the fact that the way the hammer falls on these specific cartridges is that if you do not have a cartridge in the gun and the hammer falls, it's going to fall on the cylinder or it's going to be metal on metal. It's just not going to be good for your firearm. Excuse me. This Ruger SR22 is constructed in such a way that you can dry fire. It's it's said that way explicitly in the manual. So I said, that would be a great way to get a semi-automatic pistol so that I have a different type of mechanism to be shooting with and practicing with, and it's something that would not be like a lethal round potentially, or I don't know. I sort of lie to myself and say that the 22 caliber is like less lethal, although you definitely don't want to get shot with that either. But again, it's sort of taken me some time to warm up to this stuff as well. So yeah, I said, here's a semi-automatic pistol that's in 22 that I will be able to dry fire with at home and get good at, but also ammunition is like dirt cheap. So I think when I actually picked it up, I got many, many boxes of it, but they had like 50 rounds. It was like $6. And I was like, holy shit. Meanwhile, you look at other ammunitions, or it could be 50 cents per shot, so much, much more expensive. So where am I going with this? So I've been handling this firearm forever and ever and ever, and then after a week to the day, and this is predicated on some other frustrations I've had with the place that I bought this gun from, I was watching something. I don't know what it was, but I was watching something, and I was just handling it like I normally do. And as I was loading and unloading the magazine, a piece of the gun fell out. And I was like, what the fuck? And it's a piece of metal. I just heard this clink, clink on the ground. And I reach down and I pick it up and I see this like broken off piece of metal. And I'm like looking at the gun and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like taking it apart. I like remove the slide and I'm like looking inside. And I'm like, where the fuck did this piece of metal come from? And then I go online and I start well, I mean, I've not really like broken the thing down too much. I mean, I've removed the slide and all that sort of basic stuff, but I just Google image search, Ruger SR22 firing pin. And all of a sudden, sure as shit, I realized that the firing pin on the gun is broken, which if you know anything about guns means that the gun doesn't shoot. Without a firing pin, a gun doesn't function. So I was like, what the fuck? Now, the crazy part is that's exactly why you don't dry fire guns, or 22s especially, is because you'll ruin the firing pin. And I thought, well, that fucking sucks. Because one, it says explicitly in the manual that you're supposed to be able to do that. But how shitty is it that, of course, this thing that 22 caliber pistols do, like the reason that you don't try from is so that this doesn't happen. So how bizarre is it that I've done the thing that your sort of, common convention says don't do, has actually happened, even though the manual says that you should be able to do it with this gun. So, it felt both kind of like appropriate, but also kind of like pissed me off because this is exactly why I bought the gun. Now, the other thing about firearms, which sucks, is when you buy them, you can't go back to the place that you bought it from and get help. I mean, unless they happen to have like a service department and are willing to like service the thing for you. It's not like any warranty on a firearm is honored by the place that you buy it from. It's the manufacturer that you have to deal with. So immediately I know this is not just a matter of calling up the firearm store. I actually have to call Ruger, the manufacturer, of the gun, and deal with it. So the good news is that Ruger has famously very good customer service. And so I literally call them up, and the nicest woman I've ever spoken to in my life answers the phone. And I just explain the situation. I say, hey, I bought this SR22. I've been doing a lot of dry firing and handling with it per the protocol and the instructions of the manual. And lo and behold, as I was handling it, the firing pin or the business end of the firing pin then had like broken off and fell out of the gun. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I told her I had just gotten it a week ago. And she's like, oh, well, you just got it a week ago and you must be really frustrated. And I was like, well, it's not, not what it's exactly the opposite of what I wanted to have happen, but it is what it is. And so they were just like, well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to send you the part, or do you want to like mail it to us and we'll deal with it? And I'm not really confident in my ability to dismantle this firing pin mechanism and change this part, and I don't have any tools. So I said, well, why don't I just send it to you? And she's like, okay, well, in just a couple seconds here, you'll get a shipping label. You just have to take it to FedEx and put it in a box and ship it to us. And I was like, all right. Now, this is a first time thing for me. So the idea of like mailing a gun seems a little bit fucking weird. But lo and behold, I just put it in the box that I bought it in. And they said you can't have the box it comes in has the Ruger, the brand, sort of on the box. And you can't have that showing, apparently. But what you can do is just get like a normal FedEx box, slip it inside of that, and it's good to go. You legally have to tell the people that you're handing it to that it's a firearm, which they were very weirded out by. I don't think they'd ever encountered that, or if they had, no one had ever like revealed to them that the parcel that they were handling was a firearm. But I had to go in there and be like, I'm legally required to tell you that this is a firearm, which they were a little weirded out by. They asked me basically 100 times if there was any ammunition in the gun or in the box, which there wasn't. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They're apparently going to have it back to me in like 5 business days. But yeah, I don't know what to say about that, except it is what it is. I bought this graduation gift for myself, and it broke within a week of having it. So thankfully, it's getting fixed at no cost to me other than the time it'll be away. But I will be curious. I mean, my expectation is I'm going to get it back, and I'm going to handle it and do the same shit with it, and we'll just have to see. Was this a fluke or what? I mean, I'm glad I got a chance to shoot it. I'd probably be a little more disappointed if I hadn't been able to take it to the range at least once. But yeah, I was actually really surprised. I mean, prior to getting this new firearm and going to the range, I had not shot in, I don't know. Yeah, maybe before I went to Taiwan or something like that. But I've been doing a lot of practicing at home, and I shot really, 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 really well. And it's kind of bizarre too, because I think it just makes me explore, like, well, what are my real interests in this area? I sort of announced, I think a while ago, that I was going to like work through the marksmanship categories, and that's something to return to. But even I do enjoy going to the range and I like shooting. But yeah, I really enjoy like just having the thing here to like manipulate and handle. That's like really the joy of it for me. Again, it sounds bizarre. It's like if it's like shuffling cards, why don't you just do that? But it's yeah, it's just been an interesting thing to like learn about different firearms and kind of be introduced to just like a whole different ecosystem of something that I never knew much about and actually find pretty engaging and pretty interesting. Again, the sad part is it happens alongside. I mean, it's. I was actually thinking about this because I know I talked about this and I said a lot of shitty things about gun culture and how much I hate it. And I admit that a part of that is I have a fair amount of insecurity as someone who's like, uh, I hear this term all the time, and soy boy. I feel like I'm a bit of a soy boy for most people, so I feel a little bit weird as a soy boy who's like buying guns or like going into a firearm store, and I feel like I'm certainly not cut from the same cloth as most of these people. But and yet yeah. So I guess I'm saying I lean into that and I kind of play that up because I think it's just my own insecurity, about of how people, as even as I'm talking about this now, like how are people going to hear this and how will they react and like what does it sound like to them? But I think the whole thing I'm trying to sort of get at, which is partly been my experience, and also why I talk about the story of like, the counterintuitus of like it's important to play with guns, which is I think if you've never handled a firearm and you're just sort of absorbing like what it is, and again, I'm not talking about the culture surrounding it. I'm talking about, the items themselves. It's just very easy to see them as these sort of like, you know, evil objects or something, but it's actually kind of interesting to sort of, I don't know, see yourself as like capable with something that you never thought you'd be capable with before, and yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about that woman who like bought a firearm and was clearly not comfortable with it. I was just wondering, like, it takes how do I word it? It takes a little bit of a, I don't want to call it an intellectual leap, but it takes a certain amount of self confidence to say, I know we kind of live in a world where these things are supposed to be sort of siloed and sequestered and like kept it hermetically sealed away from everybody. But, obviously I live alone. I can do whatever I want. And it's like I don't necessarily feel comfortable if like people were seeing me like literally, again, not play in kind of an irreverent way, but I mean, literally handling this thing all the time. Because I think people hear that and they think it's just like me in my place, and it's like that scene from Taxi Driver where I'm like pointing it at myself in the mirror, saying like, "Oh, you talking to me? You talking to me?" Right? All right. It's not that. Um, but it's like I was thinking about that woman who was not comfortable with the firearm, and I was like, I'm just gonna trust their judgment, and who knows what like maybe this person was assaulted recently. I have no idea, but this person has determined that they need a firearm for self defense. I mean, hell, maybe they just want it for recreation. But let's say this person reasonably has determined for their own safety they want to have a firearm to protect themselves with. How empowered or comfortable does that person feel like getting very familiar with that thing? Or does the fact that we treat it as like this volatile, sort of caustic kind of technology, does that dissuade someone from like actually spending the amount of time with it that they need? Right? Because that's the other thing too. Like when I originally decided to buy a firearm, it wasn't like I just had on a whim went to the gun store and bought one. I mean, I thought about it very seriously for about 6 months and like watched a lot of videos about gun safety and like took a pistol safety class and really, really thought about it, And because I think on some level you realize like if you're gonna be a firearm owner, you're introducing a variable into your life, which is, if I sort of empower myself to like eventually like defend myself with a firearm, you really have to think like, is that something I'm willing to do? Is that something I want to take responsibility for? And of course, even if you buy one with the best of intentions, you just have to recognize that you're introducing another variable into your life, which is, well, what if my place gets broken into and somebody steals it? Or, you know, what if it is just one of these things where like I'm at the range one day and you get, a bad piece of ammunition or what they call a squib load or something like that, and the gun blows up in your hand and now you have no fingers or worse. like, is this really the type of thing that even if it's very remote or the likelihood of this happening is next to nothing, it's not nothing. Even if what's the word? Even if what's it? Asymptotically, is that like an asymptote, right? When you're doing, I forget which math it is, but the line that approaches zero but never actually reaches an asymptote, right? Asymptotically is next to nothing. It's not nothing. It could happen, and by the way, it does happen. You know what I mean? So you just have to think: is that something that I really want to introduce into my life? Um, and so yeah. So yeah, I guess I would say, where's my position on this stuff? I still feel a little insecure about it, but that's mostly kind of wrapped up in how I think other people feel about it. I've enjoyed it quite a bit, and I've actually found it to be a little bit consciousness raising. You know, to think that I'm not saying that it's necessarily something that I want for other people, but I do think for people who might be interested in it, there's ways to sort of approach the subject and to think kind of critically and commonsensically about that really have nothing to do with the types of things that I certainly think are relevant in gun culture. See, I think the one thing that I find kind of repugnant about all this is there's so many people who sort of posture as if guns, and well, there's a couple of assumptions here, but I'll still say what I was about to say, which is I think there are a lot of people who posture as if guns are about self-defense or in some kind of weird ideological way about the Second Amendment or I find a lot of people who really get into this stuff, they not only see themselves as like, it's not just their capacity to defend themselves, but to defend other people, which I think is a little bit weird. They've kind of deputized themselves to kind of be like a protector of the world, which, look, it certainly happens, right? There are anecdotal stories about there's like an active shooter and then some guy who happens to have a licensed concealed weapon is able to sort of intervene and save the day. Um, I think I don't think that should be the reason that people buy a firearm necessarily. Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just a lot of people who they really just like guns and they like pull trigger, boom, and they get a type of rush out of that. And the reason they want big guns is because they're bigger booms and they feel tough. And they've kind of they've watched Black Hawk Down a couple times, and it's really this kind of a romanticization. It's a part of their personality. It's a part of, in the same way that someone could be goth or the way that somebody could be punk or rockabilly or something like that, there is a kind of firearm dude thing that people get into, almost like cyclists. You know what I mean? Like, I'm convinced that half the people who get into cycling just do it because they like the gear, they like the bike, they like the outfit, and they're cultivating a personality. And there's definitely that type of thing that happens with firearms as well. I mean, like I said, every time I go to the firearms store or buy ammunition, I hear people having the exact same fucking conversations. It's about the restrictive California gun laws, and it's about this or that. I mean, when I was just looking at ammunition options for this new pistol that I got, I just wanted to see, because when I first got my gun, there was just no ammunition on the market. It was catch as catch can. This was right around COVID, and there was just nothing available. But I was just, things are pretty well stocked these days, and so I just wanted to see what was out there. And of course, I'm waiting and I'm hearing this person behind that counter have this long-winded story with another customer about, oh, well, I just can't. First of all, we're in California. Why does everybody speak with a Southern accent? I swear to God, they fucking do. But this person's like, oh, I was just, visiting family and wherever. And, it's just a completely different culture over there. I saw this guy come back from the range and he was just walking to his car and he just threw his pistol on the passenger seat and took off. And I was like, hey, well, it's just a different culture over there. And that's the world they want to live in. And, I don't know. As I'm saying that, I feel the need to sort of say something against that. I'm not sure that a real censor of that bubbles up intrinsically from inside me, but anyway, yeah, I don't know. Where am I going with all this? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I think in California, we're just sort of led to believe that most people don't own firearms, but I'd be curious. It's weird too because I don't broadcast or communicate to anybody in my life that I own a firearm or that I'm interested in them, even superficially. But yeah, I don't know what that means exactly. It's easier to talk to people about Squid Game, I suppose. Which, by the way, is violent, right? Like, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like that movie's littered with gun violence. Isn't the opening game that red light, green light thing? It's just people getting shot. And by the way, dude, this is funny, actually. So the reason I was even thinking about Squid Game is because, well, I rewatched it recently. But the reason I rewatched it recently, sort of chipped away at it over the course of 2 weeks, was they have that Squid Game challenge on Netflix. Do you know what that is? They literally reenact Squid Game, but they do it with like human people. I mean, the show is with human people as well. But I mean, they do it with like it's like a reality show where they reenact the Squid Game games, and it's you know it's pretty interesting actually. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it's the way it's edited, but there's a real human drama. Like, you know, they just really put the psychological pressure on people where it's like, this is the closest we're going to get to the Hunger Games without real bullets. But they do, if you've seen Squid Game, you realize that it is this sort of like, what do you call it? Thunderdome? Is that what it's called? Thunderdome? I don't know. Fight to the death type of thing. I don't know what it is, but people die in Squid Game, and so they do this thing where they kind of allude to that, where everybody ostensibly seems to be wearing these like dye packs as the game is going on, and if they lose, this thing just like explodes as if they've been shot, and clearly the producers have like instructed people to like lay down as if they're dead. And I just feel so fucking bad because it's like, not only do you get voted off the fucking, like, basically are you disqualified from the show, but you have to pretend like you've been shot and fall over like you're dead. And it's like, you see everybody who does it with like this smirk on their face. Like, even they know this is fucking stupid. And it's always done in slow motion. And it's like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Because as I'm watching it, it's not like there's no part of me that goes, oh, that person's like been shot. It's this weird performative, like, simulation of assassination that they're asking people to partake in, which is like, I don't know, maybe just have it be like paintball, where the paint sort of splatters on them and they just kind of raise their hand and stand there. Why are we making them fall over in slow motion and simulate the fact that they've died when I know that that's not what's happening? Anyway, I recommend it. What else is good, man? Actually, I've actually been watching a lot of things. My brother texted me the other day and he was like, "Oh, I rewatched The Wailing, which is this Korean horror movie, which is exceptional." And so I ended up watching that last night myself, or I had it on during the day actually while I was working on this paper. And I admit it stole more of my attention than I wanted it to. The movie is probably about like, I don't know, maybe it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I admit there were some parts where I looked away and got distracted with my paper. But if you haven't seen that movie, I really recommend it. It's actually one of these movies where like the end, it has one of the most, like every once in a while you're kind of watching a movie and it's good. Don't get me wrong. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this movie is very good. But it has a kind of climax where it just has this scene at the very end, which is just one of the most psychologically arresting and penetrating endings to a movie I've ever seen. And it's not, if you've seen the movie before, it's probably not what you're thinking of as much as there's just this scene in a cave where this person reveals like who they really are. And it's just so well done visually. And it's not like CGI. It's all done like in camera, very practical. And it's just one of those, just one of these moments where you realize there's just so much that movies try to do. I think we were talking about this recently with like CGI and Bram Stoker's Dracula and stuff like that. But the things that are really psychologically penetrating in movies are usually just things that happen very practically and are accomplished without a lot of like post-production effects. You know what I mean? Like it's actually interesting. If you go back and watch a movie like Vanilla Sky, you're actually kind of just, even in a very poignant moment at the end where, he's sort of on the edge of this building and he has to sort of take this kind of leap of faith to like return to the real world or whatever, you're actually kind of distracted by the amount of like computer generated vibe is generated for the scene. literally the movie's called Vanilla Sky, which it sort of ends with this kind of like cream colored sky. He's on top of some New York building or what. I don't know if it's like the actual Empire State Building or something like that. But it's like you're actually kind of distracted by those moments. And now, as I'm saying this, I'm trying to think of like what would the opposite of that be. Um, but you don't need. I guess I'm thinking of like I watched that movie The Flash or whatever on like, well, formerly HBO Max. Now it's just Max, which is insane to me that they dropped the HBO branding. Which is actually bizarre because for some reason all of the HBO shows, the old HBO shows, are like popping up on Netflix, which seems fucking insane to me. Like if you took over Max, whatever, formerly HBO Max, now just Max, and you took over all that programming, are they just like trying to like gain money by like licensing that stuff out? It's like, does Netflix do the same thing? Does Netflix like create a show and then go, we're gonna license it to other people? That doesn't seem like a good control of your brand or whatever. But where am I going with all this, dude? I don't know, man. My brain is fucked. It's Sunday. It's late. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. There's a part of me that's like, let's just end it here and let me move on with my life, and I'll let me return to my life, and I'll let you return to yours, and we'll just have a short installment here. Although I will say I did watch last night I watched the new Todd Haynes movie, May December, which is on Netflix with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. And I really was looking forward to this movie. I saw a trailer for it and I was like, oh, here we go. Now this is a real film. Julianne Moore is obviously great. And actually, I didn't realize it was Todd Haynes, which is actually, I mean, he's done some cool stuff. Like I'm Not There, the Bob Dylan movie that is really kind of remembered for Cate Blanchett, who plays Bob Dylan. At one point, a lot of different people play sort of versions of Bob Dylan, but the people really remember Cate Blanchett in her role. But the movie that I remember him for is this movie called Safe, which I don't think a lot of people have seen. I know I've talked about it years ago on this thing, but it's just this really great movie about Julianne Moore, who plays like this, I think it's like LA, kind of Beverly Hills housewife, not a lot to do. And the entire drama of her life is sort of centered, at least in the beginning of the movie, around like buying a sofa for her house and like them sending the wrong one or the wrong color or something like that. Like the inciting incident of the film is like a sofa that's like the wrong color. But this woman becomes increasingly agoraphobic. And it's like it's just the way that it sort of unravels is very subtle and like not in your face. But clearly the film is making the connection, like the reason this person is so absorbed in like their agoraphobia is like, one, they don't have any real problems. And ultimately this thing that is manifesting very real in their life. I mean, the symptoms are real. It's not that the symptoms aren't happening, but it's entirely psychological. There's something wrong with this person. And it's not just like, oh, this person lives with a mental illness. It's kind of making the suggestion that, if this person was able to have enough insight into their circumstances, they might have the type of, they might have the resources, the internal fortitude to reauthor their life in such a way that where they wouldn't be dealing with this, right? These symptoms wouldn't be presenting themselves. Really, these are symptoms that are trying to draw their attention to other aspects of their life that need tending to, like, sort of spiritual fulfillment or meaning or something like that. But by virtue of the fact that like the culture that this person is in, their own presentation about their symptoms and the sort of seriousness with which they handle them and demand other people to take them seriously, people are very much intimidated to like kind of be supportive and encourage this person down their path. And by the end of the movie, you realize that they're living in utter fucking lunacy, where like they go to this special compound, this like sort of sequestered environment for people who live with the same type of agoraphobia. And it's just a very interesting movie because it's like, on the one hand, it sort of toggles this line of like, is this person nuts? Is this person sane? But also at the end of the day, does it really fucking matter? Because there could be a way in which even though completely conceding to these symptoms is like crazy making, it also could be the only tools or resources that this person has as like an escape trajectory out of their life as it currently exists, right? So it's like, let's say this person goes to the crazy compound of like-minded people who are kind of living with a delusional disease that is really just this kind of like a Rubik's Cube fucked up way of like not dealing with trauma or something like that. But let's just say that that is their life. Is it still possible for that person to go all the way in on that thing and yet still be happier than they would be if they were trying to bend themselves like a paperclip to live in the quote normal life that you and I live, right? So I see this movie, and actually now that I think about it, I don't know how I landed on it, because as I was sort of watching the opening credits of May December, I was like, oh, Todd Haynes, oh, I know that director's name. Who is that? And of course, I open up another tab and look it up, and I say, oh, that's the dude who did Safe. And I'm looking at the other credits like I'm not there, or maybe it's I'm not here. I don't know. It's one of those. But it's like, I'm like, how did I land on this film? I don't know. Maybe I actually, now that I think about it, maybe it was recommended in a podcast or something like that. Or actually, maybe it was just related to Julianne Moore or something like that. Maybe I was like on a Julianne Moore kick or something like that. But I was just thinking, like, holy shit, like, here's a real fucking movie. And how have I not heard of this? And why aren't more people talking about this movie? So if you want a real movie recommendation, I would recommend Safe. And then I would recommend watching May December as well. Because, you know, Natalie Portman is kind of like the star of the show, right? And, you know, I have to admit, I've always had a crush on Natalie Portman. So I'm always going in and kind of like, I feel like Natalie Portman is, if I could like draw the person that I sort of ended up with in my life, it would be Natalie Portman as I imagine her. You know, maybe not Natalie Portman as she actually exists, right? That would mean seeing her as a human being. But you know, as the sort of the Natalie Portman of like, you know, my fantasy or something like that. Uh but yeah, it's a very interesting movie, and thematically it's a little bit different, meaning it kind of deals with this woman played by Julianne Moore, who, like many people you probably heard of in the news yourself, was like a former tabloid star for being an adult who had a affair with a 7th grade student, not her 7th grade student. Or actually, maybe I need to think about that. They worked at like a pet store together or something like that, but they were caught in the closet, you know, sort of fooling around or whatever. But anyway, she's like pregnant with his baby at some point, goes to jail, has the baby in prison, and this is all like this is all backstory to the movie. But basically, she's this former tabloid figure, had a baby with somebody who was much younger than her. They ended up getting married. And so the film sort of begins where Natalie Portman is an actress who's going to be playing this woman in a movie that she's making, and wants to sort of meet this person and get to know them to somehow inform the character that she's creating for this movie or whatever. And so the film sort of picks up where Julianne Moore is much older than her husband, right? This person who was a 7th grader when they met. They have twins together or something like that. And so Natalie Portman is just getting to know this family, getting to know their life. And it's a very different type of movie than Safe, but it's a little bit similar. Because as it begins, you think, wow, this person, Julianne Moore, like kind of has it all together. And like, well, yes, obviously criminal at the time that this happened. And yet there seems to be something about their life where things are kind of, you know, working out or something like that. But as the movie goes on, again, not in a heavy-handed type of way, in a very subtle way, it starts to point your attention at details in their life where you start to think, huh, well, that's a little bit strange. And yeah, it's just, I don't know what to say, except it's just very refreshing to kind of see a movie or a filmmaker that deals with something that could be dealt with very sensationally or very judgmentally or very whatever. It's like it doesn't need to how do I say it? Moralize. I mean, the movie obviously has a moral stance, but it's like for some reason I was thinking recently about like when you watch like sketch comedy these days or any comedy really, they always have to, if they're doing anything irreverent, they always have to have one character who sort of points out what's being said is wrong somehow. Like if you have a comic character who's being irreverent or not politically correct or something, they always have to have a counterpart who's saying, "Oh my God, did you just say this?" But they're both kind of undercutting the comedy and also kind of patronizing the audience because they're kind of wanting it both ways. They're wanting to both like use the irreverent humor, but also kind of minimize or blunt the impact of that by having at least someone some character on the screen or something kind of indicate that, oh, we're saying this because it's fun. This is funny, but we know it's bad. It's like a preemptive apology or something like that. It's just very nice to be watching a movie that deals with something that is going to elicit a strong moral response from people who are watching it, but they're not feeling the need to like moralize it that way. You know, they're not just saying that this is wrong. It does a very good job of unpacking, like, well, this is why it's wrong. This is the type of thing that, how do you say it? Sort of blooms out of someone who chooses to construct their life this way. And also, without getting too heavy-handed about it, really try to unpack, the type of person who goes down this course, this Julianne Moore character. What type of life must they have led to bring them to this place? It's not just that what they did is wrong, and it's not just that they just have some aberration of personality or whatever, but in a very real way, what must this person have experienced at some point in their life to bring them to this place where this is okay? And actually, now that I'm sort of making this connection together, and I'm probably bringing something that, I may have talked about this before, but if you think about you think about a movie like Safe, and you think about somebody who lives with agoraphobia, right? And some people just kind of announce these things like, "Oh, I have agoraphobia," and that may be true. And there are some people who just kind of have things. Like, for example, I said very confidently one time, "Well, nobody just has anxiety," and that was because it was in my experience, I told myself for years that I lived with anxiety, and while that may have been observably true, it also was, I eventually came to understand it's not just like that I have anxiety with a capital A operating in my brain. What I'm experiencing as anxiety is a symptom of some other unattended trauma or issue in my life that's not being dealt with. So if I just go about trying to treat the anxiety, I'm actually not going to be solving anything. I'm just going to be like dealing with things on kind of a superficial level. Once I deal with the root cause, the anxiety disappears, right? So at the end of the day, though, it's been demonstrated to me that actually some people just have no pre-existing conditions. They just kind of live with things like anxiety, or the example that I think about is like impulsive suicidology. Like there are some people who have no external life crises, no, some people just think about suicide because they're living through life crisis, or they live with some type of known diagnosis whereby they just have, whether it's major depressive disorder or something like that, suicide is one of the things that they think about. I've also just known and spoken to people who, for no good reason at all, their brain is wired in such a way where they have a voice that occasionally comes on in their brain and tells them to kill themselves. And that is a very unfortunate thing to live with. Now, I'm just sort of acknowledging that that certainly exists. However, when you think about a movie like Safe, and you are confronted with the type of situation where somebody is dealing with something that may not be just a known diagnosis with whatever, like let's call it agoraphobia. It's not just that this person has agoraphobia and that's the luck of the draw. It really does seem to be the case that this thing that we're recognizing and identifying as agoraphobia is really just a symptom of this constellation of other issues that are existing just below the surface that this person, had they the clarity or the resiliency to sort of attend to, would be able to actually deal with the thing that they're just calling agoraphobia, if you know what I'm getting at. But here's the thing. These things surface for a reason. And if in my position, let's say I'm treating this person or something like that, if I just invested all of my time kind of trying to explain to this person that what they're calling agoraphobia is not that there's actually some underlying trauma, if I just sort of try to talk them out of that could actually be very devastating for that person. That actually this thing that could be completely, quote, delusional, and I'm trying to use that word kind of generously, I'm not quite sure what else to call it, that very complicated construction could actually be the thing that's keeping them together, right? So I'm trying to use a real example, but I'm not really sure I can really do that with respecting the type of anonymity that, happens when you work on the crisis line or something like that. But just suffice it to say, there's been people that I've spoken with repeatedly who are convinced that some course of action is the cure-all for their life. But it's very clear to me that actually pursuing that not only could be worse for them, but if I talk them out of whatever, quote, delusion that they're living with, that could actually be devastating for them, because that one thing that I think is actually impeding their progress could be the only thing that's like keeping them together. So anyway, I think that's just a long-winded way of saying, it's just interesting. And it's just interesting that these two Todd Haynes movies, who both have Julianne Moore kind of as their lead character, deal with people who are in these like colossally, we would say fucked up situations, but also does an incredibly sensitive job of also trying to, sort of pick apart and understand, how do people end up this way? And also, is there a way in which we can be sympathetic? We can both vehemently disagree with where this person is at and the course of action that they're taking, but also understand what must be going on with this individual that led them to this place. And that's just a kind of level of nuance. And also, how do I say it? We live in a time period where I think people consider themselves very generous, and empathetic is a word. Everyone thinks they're an empath. But I think it's, there's a type of easy empathy that is very easily, there's kind of the low-hanging empathy that people reach for. And I think sometimes the creative voices that we think are, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something less divisive than like not politically correct, but the types of voices that we think, you know, they don't really, I don't know. They're asking us to sort of go to a dangerous, or what feels like a dangerous place, or something that feels not entirely comfortable. I think they're actually sometimes asking us to kind of pick the higher empathy fruit, which is, I'm going to present you with a character that you ideologically or for whatever reason that you strongly dislike them, and yet I'm going to ask you to try to, try to understand what led them to these circumstances with the exact same empathy and care and consideration that you would for anybody else, right? Like if you watch a movie like, actually, I'll say this very briefly and then we have to go. I watched this other movie recently called Manodrome, which is the first movie that I've sort of seen that tries to take a kind of character study and place it in like an incel type world, right? This type of exploration of like toxic masculinity and what leads people to become, incel ideology and that sort of stuff. And it's a fine movie. You should watch it, and it's okay. It's not very good. And of course, it's not very good because it ticks all the cliche boxes, which, by the way, I'm going to spoil it for you. But, of course, he's an incel because on some level he's a repressed homosexual and that sort of stuff. That's the kind of bullshit stuff that even as you watch it, even as a film, you go, this is exactly what somebody would think is underlying someone's kind of ideology. But even as you watch it, you just know that it's a creative cop-out. This is not written by somebody who is actually trying to approach these issues or really try to express how a real person with some amount of empathy or whatever arrives at this place. It's sort of overridden with its own ideology. And so anyway, I'm just trying to say that, it's just refreshing. Compare that to a movie like May, December, or maybe even this movie Safe by Todd Haynes, where somebody is, again, presenting you with someone that it's very easy to be critical of, and yet also trying to ask you to pick the high fruit of empathy and exercise the same level of thought and compassion that you would, whether it's with a Manodrome or another movie that I'm very critical of called Moonlight, which I thought was, again, kind of low-hanging fruit cinematically. But anyway, for someone who thought they were going to end early, we've gone a little bit over our time here. I know this has been kind of a scatterbrain and crazy entry here, but that's the way the cracker crumbles, baby. So, man, next time I see you, I will not be out of the woods yet. I'll actually just kind of be at the beginning of my week of finals, but that's okay. I still see a light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll be seeing it together very soon. So let's cut it off here. I'll look forward to continuing the conversation next week. And until then, I'll say thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and ciao for now.